Our planet is home to more than 7.8 billion people. With the global population continuing to grow by more than 80 million people annually, it's progressively getting more crowded. The human population is projected to cross 9 billion by 2050. However, it cannot continue to grow indefinitely, considering the limitations on the life-sustaining resources that Earth can provide us with. In other words, our planet's carrying capacity for the human species can soon tire out. No other species has had a negative impact on our planet's existence as compared to us humans. Our unsustainable population growth, combined with overconsumption and overexploitation of natural resources, is threatening our future. And that of the planet we call home.
Well, it's already visible in the number of cyclones that we have, in the kind of hurricanes that we are having. And recently we've seen in Uttarakhand all the glaciers melting and causing floods. So these are already visible to us.
In the recent years, whatever change we see in terms of the rise in temperature of the surface of the Earth is being attributed to the anthropogenic or man-made factors.
We are exceeding Earth's carrying capacity. The result? Severe environmental degradation, such as increased deforestation, loss of biodiversity, and shortage of food and water.
I think that the climate change crisis is very, very, very severe, but there is also hope that it can be reversed.
Abrupt climate change is likely to stretch this carrying capacity well beyond its already precarious limits. We are witnessing abrupt changes in the climate system due to excessive buildup of human-generated greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Climate change has always happened on Earth. However, the rapid rate with which the climate is changing in recent times is perhaps one of the biggest crises the world is facing right now. Global temperatures have risen a little more than 1 degree Celsius since the Industrial Revolution, implying a significant increase in accumulated heat in our atmosphere. Our growing population, grouped with rising affluence and per capita impact, is driving our planet's carrying capacity to its tipping point.
Climate change is not affecting just the heat and the water and resources. It is going to affect political boundaries, it's going to affect peace that is happening, it's going to affect health.
It is possible for us to slow down the effects of the climate change. Once we pass the tipping point, then there is no way that we can turn it back.
Studies estimate that with current trends, it would take around 1.75 Earths to sustain our current population. And if the trends continue, the count can reach as many as 4 Earths by 2050. Greenhouse gases, whether natural or human-produced, contribute to the warming effect of the planet. When carbon dioxide and other heat-trapping emissions are released into the air, they act like a blanket, holding heat in our atmosphere and warming the planet. According to World Meteorological Organization, the past 6 years have been recorded as the warmest years on record since 1880, with the year 2020 topping the list with a temperature increase of 1.2 degrees Celsius since the pre-industrial period.
As we are not controlling the population, the rate at which we are using the natural resources is also increasing, and thus our contribution towards the carbon emissions in the world.
Carbon dioxide emission levels have risen by more than 30% since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and this concentration of carbon dioxide has been estimated to be the highest since the past 800,000 years. Like many countries, India too faces the adverse effects of global warming. The rapidly increasing population and economic development of the country have adversely contributed to the increased emission of heat-trapping gases, warming up the environment.
The only way we could induce or increase the sequestration or the carbon capture is by increasing the rate at which we are sequestering and reduce the rate at which we are emitting. And this is possible only if we could continue to control the populations and the total consumption of the natural resources.
As per the statistics released by the Indian Meteorological Department, the average temperature in India has increased by about 0.6 degrees Celsius between 1901 and 2018. This increase in the temperature is largely due to the atmospheric warming induced by greenhouse gas emissions. According to a report prepared by the Center for Climate Change Research, the average temperature across India is projected to rise by approximately 4.4 degrees Celsius by the end of the 21st century.
The frequency and intensity of heat wave shows the rising trend in major parts of the heat wave core zone, that is Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, North Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, UP, Bihar. This is called the heat wave core zone. So there it is found that the frequency and intensity of the heat wave is showing an increasing trend.
Climate change can still be tackled, but only if people are willing to reduce their carbon footprints.
Well, even small acts done by an individual, when you call it collectively, they all add up to a big change. So individually what we can do is be water wise, drive less, use more public transport, and of course have smaller families so that we create a much smaller footprint than we used to.
Rapid urbanization has led to two interlinked factors contributing heavily towards the degradation of our environment: overpopulation and climate change. Overpopulation is a common adversary faced by almost every country in the world, becoming a major driver of global warming.
With the increase in population, there is more release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And carbon dioxide helps in a rise in temperature and hence global warming.
With increasing temperatures around the world, the possibility of natural disasters and calamities has increased manyfolds. Fatal heat waves, melting ice caps, retreating glaciers, cataclysmic floods, droughts, and rising sea levels are among the few alarming effects of global warming. Polar ice caps are melting because of increasing global warming. Arctic sea ice is lost at a rate of almost 13% per decade, and as per experts, the oldest and thickest ice in the Arctic has declined by a whopping 95%. Studies also suggest that if the current trend of emissions continue, the Arctic could be ice-free by the year 2040. Antarctica alone has lost more than 4 million metric tons of its ice shelf since the mid-1990s because of the rapid increase in global warming. The worldwide melting glaciers and ice sheets contribute to yet another calamity: the rising sea levels. Since the 1880s, the global sea levels have risen to about 6 to 8 inches, and as per experts, considering the current trends of global warming, the sea levels can rise from 1 to 8 feet by 2100. The rising sea levels increase the risk of disastrous floods along the coastlines around the world. Apart from floods, the increasing levels also worsen the damages caused by hurricanes. India, currently with a population of more than 1.3 billion people, is projected to overtake China, becoming the most populous country in the world by 2026. Considering India's large coastline, sea levels at some of India's major coasts are increasing at a much faster rate than elsewhere in the world, making the coastal areas prone to floods, impacting the people whose livelihoods depend on the oceans.
Increased temperature is adding into the acidity of the seawater, which is harming the biota. So all the communities that is dependent on the fisheries and other biota is actually facing problems because the seasonality of their reproduction and the availability of resources is drastically changing. The other is the humans are destroying the vegetation that is present in the coastal region. And this is what is actually making them more vulnerable to the cyclones.
India has been facing the consequences and the wrath of climate change frequently. On the 7th of February 2021, disaster struck the Chamoli district of the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand when a portion of the Nanda Devi glacier broke off. Water had gushed down the Daliganga river valley, wiping out dams, houses and people along with it. The Chamoli disaster was clearly a symptom of climate change's disproportionate impact on the Himalayas. Uttarakhand was also a victim of a cloudburst in 2013 that had caused devastating landslides and floods. The effects are everywhere.
In 2018, 2019 and 2020, consecutive floods in Kerala caused severe destruction and loss of life.
In 2005, the Mumbai floods had brought the maximum city to a complete stop. The state of Maharashtra had witnessed a 7-fold increase in drought events and a 6-fold increase in the frequency of flood events in the last 50 years. No place or person can escape the effects of climate change. Along with the increasing population, the lifestyle of people plays a crucial role in accelerating the rate of climate change. Every little human activity, from how we buy food, clothes or consumables, to how we commute and recycle waste, adds to our carbon footprint.
Every child that is added to the population adds 9,400 metric tons of carbon emissions. That is simply due to the lifestyle changing. The lifestyle today is much more gigantic than it was before, and therefore we have to also look at the lifestyle if the same amount of population causes the same amount of carbon emissions.
According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, 1/3 of food items produced yearly are wasted, simply adding to the carbon emissions and harming the environment. The ever-upgrading fashion industry adds to harming the environment by polluting the water, using toxic chemicals, and by textile waste. The increasing global warming because of the growing population is affecting the spread of infectious diseases through pathogens and parasites across the globe, with adverse impacts on human health. Densely populated countries with rising temperatures are even more vulnerable to the increased risk of infection through airborne diseases. Urban crowding is not only increasing the risk of spreading the diseases already present in the area, but also the diseases arriving from other places. The world is still recovering from the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, a disease that brought countries to a standstill and wreaked unparalleled havoc. Water and air pollution caused by overpopulation have become an important factor, leading to the spread of diseases like cholera, diarrhea, typhoid, and hepatitis A. It is a bigger cause of human death annually than disasters and conflict combined. The growth in the industrial sectors, increased use of vehicles and heavy constructions around the world is continuously degrading the air quality by adding toxic contents to the air, leading to diseases like asthma, congestion, chest pain, and cardiovascular diseases. The population of towns and cities has increased tremendously. The facilities for the disposal of waste and wastewater cannot keep up. As a result, all kinds of waste, industrial waste, municipal sewage, and residues of chemical fertilizers gets dumped into our rivers, polluting them. An estimated 40 million liters of wastewater gets disposed of in the Indian rivers. Around 80% of surface water in India is unfit for consumption.
You know, the water is affected by climate change. We have less and less water that is coming to us and greater demand for water.
Consumption of polluted water is one of the main causes of affecting the health of people in India. Waterborne diseases are majorly responsible for 80% of human mortality in the country.
The quality of air in India continues to deteriorate daily. As per reports from 2020, as many as 22 of the world's 30 most polluted cities are in India.
About 50% of the air pollution is caused by the industrial sector, 27% by vehicles, about 17% due to crop burning, and 5% by fireworks. India is also facing one of its most severe water crises ever because of the overexploitation of groundwater.
You're going to have those water wars, skirmishes in villages, people standing in line, fighting with each other for water. So it's become like the old gold. It has become so precious.
As per the Composite Water Management Index report released by Niti Aayog in 2018, 21 major Indian cities, including Delhi, Bengaluru and Chennai, are racing towards zero groundwater levels. The report also suggests that the country's water demand is projected to be twice the available supply by 2030, indicating a severe water scarcity for hundreds of millions of people. Addressing audiences at TERI's annual flagship event, World Sustainable Development Summit in February 2021, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about safeguarding the health of our planet by thinking out of the box and investing in the youth of our country.
We have gathered here to talk about the health of the planet. The scale of the challenge we face is widely known, but conventional approaches cannot solve the problem we face. The need of the hour is to think out of the box, invest in our youngsters, and work towards sustainable development.
The responsibility of successfully tackling climate change does not entirely rely upon the government alone. Meet Lakshman Singh, a climate crusader from Rajasthan.
Everybody should participate collectively and work towards progress and peace.
He has been building water conservation and natural resource management systems in the rural, drought-prone districts of the state since 1977. With the help of local villagers and by training the youth of the village, Lakshman Singh has successfully managed to transform his own drought-struck village of Lapuria.
We conceptualized and executed this project 40 years ago, and today we are on the path to success. Our attempt is to have everyone, people from Rajasthan, other states and other parts of the world, understand our work so that we can implement it in different places.
Today, more than 50 villages in Rajasthan are following the Chaoka system for water conservation, invented by Lakshman Singh.
We invented the Chaoka system, noticing that grass and trees grow better in natural ditches with 1 foot of water. We created a 150 feet long Chaoka system around a pasture supported by 270 feet long side walls. Overflow of the Chaoka was directed towards the pond, filling the pasture with 1 foot and 9 inches of water. The water then overflows into smaller ponds. We spread a lot of seeds in the Chaoka system. And today we have flourishing forests because of the moisture in the soil. This is how we made the Chaoka system work. When it comes to Unsagar, water from this pond is used for irrigation. We made 2 more ponds, Phulsagar and Devsagar. A collective decision was made to not use water from these ponds for irrigation, as rainwater harvested in these ponds will only be used to recharge the wells. We believe that the ecosystem of Laporia and the 58 adjoining villages has improved tremendously. And we are also working on gathering many more villages to join us. It is impossible for us to change the climate system globally. However, we have set an example as to how the climate system can be improved.
Fighting climate change needs a concerted effort from governments, individuals and organizations alike. To create awareness about the issue, Mobius Foundation, a non-profit organization promoting environmental sustainability through sustainable resources, organized the International Conference on Sustainability Education in September 2019.
The International Conference on Sustainability Education, in which 76 countries participated. The result was that a lot more people throughout the world became aware of the necessity of education to actually mitigate the climate change which we are going through.
The conference focused on exploring pathways to address current and emerging sustainability challenges through education by empowering learners with new skills, values and attitudes that lead to sustainable societies.
Investment has to be made in the sustainability education for youth, because they become the future leaders and advocates of sustainable lifestyle.
With an overwhelming response with over 750 attendees from across 76 countries, including sustainability educators, leaders, policymakers, teachers and practitioners from different disciplines, the two-day-long event showcased around 15 thematic sessions, amongst which 2 sessions focused solely on climate change. The first session focused on education for sustainable development to prioritize the actions that can have an impact in reducing carbon emissions and achieving the goals set for the year 2030. The session also discussed ways through which formal education systems can help influence all the sectors of our economy, like energy, agriculture, land use and industrial processes. The session on Green School program focused on how schools can move beyond awareness and change the infrastructure of schools to give healthier and stimulating environments to the children. Human activities have caused major damages to the climate system globally by setting in motion rapid climate changes and through the emission of heat-trapping gases. While the world continues its efforts to lower the emissions of greenhouse gases, it can still take a considerable amount of time for our planet to respond. The fact remains that population and climate change are inextricably linked. Stabilizing the number of people being born will not only cut future carbon emissions, but will also ensure the availability of essential resources like food, water and shelter. Population stabilization further safeguards improved healthcare services and better economic opportunities. It's the first step towards creating a more sustainable future.